Hello everyone, and welcome to my Shiny app. This is the very first Shiny app I've ever built, so I'm really excited to present it here, and I think I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. I'm going to talk a bit about how I built this and how somebody could use this app. So to start, let's generate a plot so we can see what this looks like. Cool. So in order to build this app, I used data from Baseball Savant, and in particular, I used the component velocity and acceleration numbers from 50 feet. I also used the physics equations of motion to predict the trajectories that you see here. One assumption that I made in creating this app and these trajectories was constant acceleration, and as I'm about to explain, that's not necessarily accurate. My initial estimates found that pitches were landing several feet in front of home plate, and the trajectories were coming up just a bit short. And I found that my times ended up being actually a bit too quick. I'm going to link this YouTube video in the description, but I found a YouTube video where these guys were watching videos of MLB pitches and figuring out how many frames it took for them to reach the catcher. And I found that the times that I was getting from calculating my trajectories was about 5% too quick. And by increasing the time by about 5%, this fixed the trajectory. Now, it still underestimates curveball depth just a little bit. It lands at most about 2 inches higher than it actually would, but for the most part, these trajectories are still pretty accurate. I'm still getting these pitches landing just a couple feet in front of home plate, but because the shape is okay, I'm also okay with this. In order to be technically correct, you would probably need a jerk term, which is the rate of change in acceleration, and you would need to add that to the motion equations in order to find something accurate. However, I don't think this is actually possible right now because at any given time, there is still always going to be more than one unknown, so we will still be guessing. Now, how do you use this Shiny app? So to start, we have default settings here. We have our first alphabetical player here, who is AJ Alexy. We have the total of all of his pitches. These are the average trajectories of all of his pitches that he threw at least 5% of the time. We have the full trajectory time, and our viewpoint is from the catcher. We see here the trajectories for AJ Alexy, and we also see his pitch movement plot over here to the right. Now, let's choose a player. We're going to go with Justin Verlander. You see here we can type into the select player box and then click generate plot. And now we have a plot. So this is showing the average trajectory of each of Justin Verlander's pitches that he threw at least 5% of the time. We see here the total trajectory of this pitch to the plate. So if we move just a little bit, oops, let's go around the other way. We can see how these pitches are actually going past the front of the plate. If we want to return to the starting point, we're going to click this camera here, and you see we return to the starting point. Now, we can see, again, the overall trajectories here, but let's modify the trajectory times. So we can see here that we are looking at the full time on the path to the plate. Now, if we click this one here, time to the front of the plate, I'm also going to mention real quick that you can change the year as well. And if a player, for example, Justin Verlander, who didn't pitch in 2021, does not have enough pitches in a given year, if we generate the plot, you can see that nothing shows up. Let's go back to overall. So looking at the times to the front of the plate, we can see here how what this is measuring is the location of these pitches right as they get to the front of the plate. And if we zoom in here, actually, you can see that this is the case. Let's return back to our last save. Now, for fastball time to the front of the plate, we're going to generate this plot. You can see here how the fastball is at the front of the plate. And then what this is showing is how far out these other pitches, so the slider, the curveball, and the changeup, how far out they are from the front of home plate. Now, if we also go to decision time, we're going to generate this plot as well, you'll notice that this is a pitch kind of just after release, maybe a little bit further. But this time here indicates what the pitches are going to look like at the point in time where the batter is going to have to decide whether or not he wants to swing at this pitch. Now let's go, and speaking of batters, let's look at what this looks like from the left-handed batter's point of view. And you can see here as a left-handed batter, standing obviously in the left-handed batter's box, he's going to be looking out towards the right-handed pitcher and these pitches as they're coming in. Now let's imagine that we have a lefty on the mound. Let's choose Justin Steele because he's close by. If we generate this plot, we'll notice that now instead of looking where the righty was pitching from, the left-handed batter is now looking where the lefty is pitching from. And we can do this also for the right-handed batter. So if we go to the right-handed batter here for Justin Steele, we have a batter who's now standing in the right-handed batter's box, looking out towards the left-handed pitcher Justin Steele. And once again, if we go back to Justin Verlander, as you'll notice here, the batter in the right-handed batter's box is now once again looking towards the right-handed pitcher. We can also modify here to the pitcher's point of view and generate the plot. And you'll notice here that we are centered right in the middle, so you might have to move a little bit for this one. But we can see what these pitches look like right out of the batter's hand. If you want a fun one, let's actually check out Tyler Rogers, just because he is a unicorn. And we can see Tyler Rogers throws from way down here. Awesome. Let's go back to Justin Verlander. Perfect. Lastly, something else that you can do here is, and let's actually get the full trajectory. Something else that you can do here is you can select or deselect pitches. So for example, if I'm looking at Justin Verlander and I want to see how his curveball compares to his fastball at release and beyond, what we can actually do is we can toggle pitches by clicking here. You see we've deselected the changeup, and here we've deselected the slider. Now, let's put these back on real quick. If we want to select only a single pitch to look at, we can double click on that pitch type, and as you see here, the fastball is the only pitch that is highlighted now. Let's go back to a catcher's point of view. So in terms of usefulness, my initial thought with this app was that it was going to be a really good tool to help hitters, and I think it really is. I think if we look at decision time, for example, and let's stick a lefty in the batter's box. The left-handed batter here can look out towards the right-handed pitching Justin Verlander and try to pick up on if there are pitches of his that seem like outliers, meaning they are popping up, for example, like his curveball does here just a bit, or if, for example, you have somebody who throws from a little bit more of a flat arm angle, if there are pitches that are taking a different trajectory to the plate than the fastball, if the batter can pick up on this, potentially he can make better swing decisions when the pitch reaches the plate. I think another thing that was really useful for this is if we look at the fastball time to the front of the plate. I like this view because this shows the batter how much time he really has to adjust if fooled by the pitch initially. So if on time for the fastball, this is how much space and time that he will need in order to react to a changeup, curveball, or slider. Now, I also believe that this is a tool for pitchers, and it's important, obviously, for pitchers to understand how their pitches are all working together in their arsenal. So, as an example, let's take a look at Jacob deGrom. Let's go 2023 because he doesn't have enough pitches yet for the 2024 season. Let's also go to a catcher's point of view. Perfect. So you'll notice here just how long Jacob deGrom's pitches seem to mirror each other before they all go off in separate directions. And I think that this is one of the reasons why he's able to get so many whiffs, and it's because his pitch shapes mirror each other for such a long time and well past the decision point making him a really deceptive pitcher, not to mention the fact that he can throw above 100 miles an hour, which is obviously very beneficial. Now, let's compare Jacob deGrom to, for example, let's go David Bednar with the Pirates, and let's go 2024. And now David Bednar's had a bit of a rough 2024, especially in comparison to his previous dominant years as the Pirates closer. And what you'll notice here is that his curveball, especially relative to his fastball, but also to the splitter, really pops up out of the hand. And so, let's actually change this to time to the front of the plate. You'll notice just how different this pitch looks to the opposing hitter. Now, his curveball this year, and this will make sense, his curveball's whiff rate is down about 15% compared to last year's. And of course, you can see why, or at least one of the reasons why, I believe, is the fact that these release angles are just so different. So a batter is less inclined to swing at this pitch. However, if we look at 2023, we'll notice how much more similarly this curveball mirrors this fastball. And so I think what you can see here, going back to 2024, is just how much location has changed the relative shape of this curveball. And again, the curveball has actually a pretty similar run expectancy in 2024 as it did in 2023. But if you take a look at his fastball is performing much worse. And I think the reason why, or at least one of the reasons why, is that relative to 2023, this fastball has a very isolated shape. None of his other pitches really look like it. And so because of that, batters are much more easily able to pick it up and do damage on it. And I think this is really interesting, especially given the fact that if you actually look at the pitch movement plots over here and compare the two, not a whole lot has changed year to year. And not to mention that his fastball velocity is actually about where it was last year. So again, I think that this really shows one reason why he might be having some of the struggles he's having this year, and is another way that you can use this to help and analyze different pitchers. So anyway, this is my Shiny app. I'd really appreciate if you leave comments to suggest ways in which I might improve this, or if you want, you can direct message me on Twitter at ckessinger44 if you want to reach me directly, if you have questions or comments or anything along those lines. Thank you for watching, and please enjoy exploring my Shiny app.